All right, so we're here with Destiny Miller, who you heard on the 12th episode when we did the 12 advancing state directors.
Yes.
So we have a little bit of your background if you want to go back in the, as they say on other podcasts, the archives, if you will, right? But I wanted to actually, there are a couple of those directors, not all of them, a couple of directors that I wanted to get more info from. So first of all, you were runner-up.
I was runner-up.
Sorry, too soon.
Again.
Third year in a
Third
row.
year in a row.
Which some people, it's some people would take that in a heartbeat. But you also have now well, for instance, we just ate pizza, right? So it's like when pizza's delivered, you smell it and you're like, oh, I bet that tastes so good. It smells so good. And then you never get to eat it.
Yeah.
Or cookies. Cookies are baking in the oven and you're smelling it and you can taste it, but you don't actually taste it. Is that what runner-up is 3 years in a row?
It is. And I think the hardest part is being grateful about that. And I say that as a former athlete that likes to win. Mm-hmm. And I have, an athletic family. I grew up playing sports, watching sports, all of these things. So winning matters in the sense that we are competing. And at the same time, teaching my kids and also trying to live through the whole, there are 3 judges on that given day. That's what they saw. Our job is not to win. Our job is to go out and put on our best show, tell a story, and reach some people in the process. And so we do a great job of leaving with that.
Right.
Of remembering that when it comes down to it, that people saw a story that they had never, probably never seen before, much less read before, and we got to expose them to our stories. Being a majority-minority school, definitely our cast also reflecting that, and the shows that we have brought to state over the last 3 years also reflect those things. And so to continuously put that type of theater out in front of UIL and Texas over and over again, and for it to be digested, obviously, in a good way, to continue to get that far, I think is awarding and rewarding in a way that first place, while wanting it, could never do.
Right.
Being able to present our own stories on a stage like that year after year, I think is probably the most rewarding part of the process. The first place would be great.
Yeah, it creates, even though you've been to state 3 years in a row, it creates, or you've been runner-up 3 years in a row, those kids can say, I've been to state this many times, because you have some that went all 3.
That went all 3 years.
But they still have a chip on their shoulder because they haven't won.
And so it keeps them hungry.
Yeah.
And it keeps them working. And when we get newbies into the cast and they realize that this process is a little different than the processes that we've done throughout the year to get to this point. Right. And the way that those kids that have been there lead, and then when it's all said and done, the bonds that have formed, the memories that are formed, because the tears, there was so much at state, but we have our whole process, our warm-up process, and there's a part in our warm-up process where there's a song that we play and we walk around and we do this every round, but we enjoy each other's presence and kind of support each other, because you don't know if that's going to be your last show.
Right.
And so when it's at state, it's your last show. Yeah. And you have these seniors that have worked extremely hard, and you have the people that have never been there that are like, this is what it's like. And it's really special. And to see the people that have gone through it 3 times have the, especially when they were seniors,
Right.
have that final moment is special.
So what do you think? You had an adjudicator that was was also your adjudicator that critiqued you, and I know that just from talking to you that they were very moved by the story.
Yeah, we got Charles Falcone for our verbal critique, and he was extremely moved.
Like personally, like
Personally
it talked
moved.
to him. Yeah.
He looked at Sion, who played Hester, our lead. For those of you that didn't see in The Blood, it was a mom that was homeless, illiterate, had 5 kids, and she's trying to get her leg up. And through the process, you see all of the people that continuously take advantage of her and let her down. And what Charles Falcone said to Sion was like, "You are my mom."
Yeah.
You know, there were 5 of us. I've sat in a welfare line, and I know what that's. I see the struggle, and I know what that's like. And it was.
It was like you wrote the play in a way. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there. You know, we're so. Our feelings are all kind of all over the place because it's, you know, first runner up again, but also hearing from someone that judged our show that the goal that we actually set out to accomplish, the telling of the story, and to have somebody walk away feeling something, feeling different, changed, or just seeing themselves in that, to have that stand in front of us and him say that she cried, I cried, half of our cast was just tears falling because it was so.
Do you think that that's part of your secret sauce though? Is you're choosing shows, and I think I've mentioned this on here before. You're not. No offense to other people that do shows around the state of Texas, but you're not choosing a show where humans are acting like horses.
Right.
Because we are not horses.
Right.
We have personal stories to tell. Do you think that that's part of your secret sauce? Because the 3 shows that you have taken to state now, you can see how somebody, if not one actor in that show, maybe multiple actors have lived that life before.
Yeah.
Even your first show with
Ruin.
With Ruin, you've got some kids on stage that maybe they didn't live it, but you know they have family. They've heard stories from their families that probably had similar lives.
And some of them even personally. Secret sauce.
No, that's the wrong term.
I know. I get what you're saying.
Your cane sauce for your UIL when I play.
Cane sauce is so good. Okay, I think that.
By the way, Canes, if you are listening, you can send your money to.
Hey, we'll take everything. You can even send it in the way of chicken tenders.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what we do that is special, especially for us, is that we want to bring humanity to these characters that don't get seen as human. I had a student, she was in Water by the Spoonful. Now she goes to Texas State. And she was saying how she got into an argument with her professor because he saw the show. And he was like, it was done very well. I just don't agree with the show because it
whose story it was?
He felt like it glorified crackheads.
Oh, okay.
And
what's wrong with that?
Anyway. She argued with him. She was like, it's not glorifying them. It's humanizing them.
Yeah.
That, although they've made choices that not everybody would make or that people don't agree with, they're still human, and they still have struggles, but they still have stories to tell, and they still matter. And I think that that's what it is for us, is taking all of these characters, even in their worst states, and making them matter, making the audience see something in them that they see in themselves. Because I think that's the only way that change can happen. It's easy, and I've had this conversation with a friend, But it's easy whenever you're watching, a 1930 show and it's racism and there's the guy that, is obviously so racist
Right.
that everybody gets to sit back and go, oh, that's not me.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have the person that is like you, that has a little something that is off, and you're going like, is that me?
Mm-hmm.
That's me. That's where the change happens. And so, and in the blood, like, the Reverend was a terrible person, but there was something very human about him. The prostitute is, she was a lot, but there's something very human about her, and there was something very human about Hester and the way that she loved her kids and the things that she would do for her kids. And then at the end, when she kills a kid, it's like, how did she get to that point? I think it's very necessary, or we've always found it very necessary, to make these characters human.
Yeah.
Because that's how we all relate to each other.
Yeah.
Is at the very basis of our humanness. So if there was secret sauce, it's that.
That's good though. I mean, because it changes. I personally think those people that have been around the last 3 years that have gone to state are starting to kind of reconsider what shows they're doing. I mean, even myself, I won't say it on here, but the show I'm considering for next year is a storytelling show. It's not Titus Andronicus. It's
Right.
like, it's not, no offense to that show, but it's just not a show that that is hard to figure out the story. It's very surface based, ready to go. People know, it slaps you in the face.
Right.
I think your show's, as negative as it sounds, slaps people in the face to like kind of wakes them up.
And I'm here for that.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. No.
That is
Knowing
that
you,
is my whole.
Yeah. Knowing you as well as I know you. Yeah. No. I mean, I get it. I understand when you say I'm doing this show and I see the show. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Destyne. I mean, like, you can tell there's a style. It was the same with Melanie. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I knew Melanie's shows.
Very much so.
And nothing wrong with that. You just, there's a style to it, and it's something you want to, your story you want to tell. So switching gears off of UIO.
Okay.
And you and I have chatted about this in the past, not too long ago. You have a different way of teaching, right, than most people.
Yes.
It's an effective way, but it's a different way. That is very new school. It deals with that R word called relationships, which is not something a lot of the old brow, not that they don't do that,
Right.
but they don't necessarily make a conscious attempt to have relationships with students, right?
Right. Especially in this day and age. So it's.
Well, it's because it's scary. You never know
Yeah.
what's going to go out there. But even I pride myself on relationship building. And my students, sure, are there things out there on the internet that, like, if you saw them, they'd be like, oh my gosh, like this guy's doing or saying what to these kids? And I mean, they're even, my kids jokingly fall on the ground, right?
Yes.
Like when I just like give them like a high five, they pretend like I just beat the heck out of them, right? And so they're those, but they do it out of love, and
Right.
and it's fun, and I know it's fun, and I've never once been, or maybe early in my education process, but I've never once felt like, oh my gosh, I just messed up, right? Which is kind of refreshing in a way, because there are all of those means to report you, if
Yes.
you will, lack of better words. I made a 960 on my SAT, so my vocabulary is not so great. Anyway, that's another podcast. but that was a long time ago. But I've watched from the outside, and again, I've said this to you, how you can very clearly. Oh, we'll stop right now for a second. That's what you should do. So, okay. So, are you gonna look at it weird?
This is
Yeah.
how I talk in the microphone.
Okay. So, as I'm in the middle of asking this question, you graduated 2 years ago or last year?
2018.
2018. Okay.
2018.
So, Avery Ford walked in, who
The top actor in Fort
who
Bend, for those who didn't know.
who is by far the most talented
All sarcastic state, if I say so myself. That's what I
actor to graduate from Miss Miller's program,
said. Yeah, me.
named Avery.
Okay.
You gotta let me finish. But anyway, so I was asking her, I was talking to her, and you guys can banter off each other, but I was telling her that there's a, from the outside looking into the program, right? Into the program at Bush. There's a there's a jealousy from some people. I won't name names. But there's a clear difference between work time and play time. And you all, as actors and students, understood now we work, and then once work ends, we play. Because you, like, for instance, you make pancakes before every contest, right?
Yes.
So I wouldn't call that work. I mean, you're working, but the kids don't know that.
Right.
But you know, like, you understand, like, we can have let's loosen up, have a little fun, and you even social media wise, you're big on social media, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, you never post anything that's like crazy, right? You post your kids having fun, but you've also posted your kids working. Yeah. And I think that, you know, again, just looking from the outside, it's like there are teachers out there that don't know how all that works, but want it. How do they get it? Go. Where's that cane sauce?
Funny thing is, I posted on Twitter not too long ago. Well, when I say not too long ago, some months ago, that I've always wanted to be the adult that I needed when I was a teenager. And I say that in the sense that there are enough adults wagging fingers and saying, don't do this, don't do that. I mean, literally, they get that from every teacher, every adult presence ever. So who do you get to talk to?
Sure.
Who do you get to, like, open up to about, like, some crazy stuff and then get an adult perspective? Because all they're really going to do is go talk to their other 17-year-old friend and get a 17-year-old unlived, unlearned perspective. So I think the first thing is making yourself available in a non-judgmental way, so that the students feel comfortable to come to you with issues that they may not come to everybody else with, so that they can get a smart perspective and get guidance. I never give advice and say that's what you must do, and then if they do something wrong or different, then I'm like, aha, but I told you. I mean, they still have to make choices for themselves. They're about to be adults. But guidance is, I think, probably the first step. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I think when it comes to, like, a program, I feel like that, in, like, conjunction with knowing when it's time to work and when it's also time to, like, bring up, like, the stuff that's going on the side, because we always knew we could go to Miss Miller, but when it was time to work, it was time to work.
When did you, because she came in a unique situation where she was pulled from a middle school. She was still working at the middle school. Not even a feeder, right? Not even. It was
not at all.
No.
So when did you know, like, oh, this chick's all right? Like was it like instant? Was it almost instant?
No, it took a minute. It took a minute. She came in for UIL auditions, and she kept saying things when we were performing, and, like, I just wanted to be like, hey, Miss Black Lady, can you stop talking? My director's speaking, okay? So, could you just keep it to the side, you know? But we get
it. You look like us, but
all right. Yeah. Take it easy, okay? You know, Miss Sugarland, ladies. It took. I think it was, like, after that we worked that first scene in Ruin. Like, they stayed after, which we had never done before. Like, we had never stayed after rehearsals to keep working, and they, like, stayed after. And the next day, Michael Duran came up to me and he was like, dude, this lady, and I was like, well, I can't wait for my scene now, you know. And then it kind of just, like, spread, and then it became, like, the norm for, like, I get it, rehearsals are over, but let's stay and work some more, you know.
Sure.
And, like, that kind of attitude, it's infectious, you know, and it kind of just spread through the program.
So what is like, did things change when she became your director? You know, when she went from middle school to being hired there?
Yeah. It was growing process, kind of learning what we could and couldn't do. Because our first show, History of Tom Jones, it was kind of like she was like, well, I'm in high school now, let's do whatever.
Yeah.
And,
that is not true.
That's what happened.
That is not what happened.
We almost
But-
got canceled.
but-
We
Everybody
did
had
almost
to
get
run.
canceled, but we didn't get canceled because I didn't have boundaries. We got canceled because y'all thought
you guys
that. And when I say y'all, I'm not talking about Avery. There was a situation, but
Yeah.
it was a situation where for those of you that know the history of Tom Jones, you know the history of Tom Jones. But during rehearsals, there were always times where this would happen. Miss Miller, can we try something? Sure, try something. I'm all about try. Show me. And I would go, absolutely not. Or I would go, let me when the admin come in, we'll let them see that. But so there were definitely parameters and things that I had specifically said no to ended up being done on opening night with our principal there.
Right.
And so yes, we got in trouble for that. But I have to make the statement, Avery Ford, that those parameters were set. But I think that for both me and the students, it got to being learning each other and trying to have fun in the process. Because what was interesting is coming in the middle of their junior year, I wasn't their teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
So I got to be good cop
Yeah,
all the
you were.
time.
Well, you were also grandma. Like you knew, they knew you were leaving. Knew you were leaving.
Yeah, like,
so it was like you didn't have to be the
I came over,
disciplinary.
worked with the kids.
Yeah.
Send them back home with their parents.
Yeah.
Goodbye. And then during the summer when I told them that I was actually coming, that also allowed us to form great relationships. And so coming over as their teacher, and then like people, without going into anybody's personal lives, like a lot of people went through a lot of things that year and a lot of changes that forced them to lean on theater family.
Right.
That made us get even closer. I say this all the time. I've said it publicly. Avery's like my child.
Right.
Literally. He's been at college and I've been like, you know what? I have extra $25. Let me cash out Avery. And then he's like, thanks, Miss Miller.
To be fair, though, he is, like, I could see your son, your actual blood son, turning into
Avery.
Turning into Avery.
That'd be a good setup for Jackson.
Well,
It's a good goal.
Me and Avery's mom, we've
I didn't
sat.
say it was a good thing.
I do talk with parents a lot. I have parents that will contact me and say my child was not doing what they're supposed to do in English, blah, blah, blah.
You're the coach. You become a coach, too.
Yeah.
And I have literally, I remember at the end of last school year, I had 3 students that were in that were in a class, that's off the record, that were in an English class. Sorry, that were in an English class, and they were running the risk of failing. And so I said, right after school, y'all will be up there, and don't make me beat you up there. And so when the bell rang, I start walking out the door, and then they look, and they're like, pew, to get up there to, like, so I have parent support and them knowing that at the end of the day, like, we are going to get this kid through this process. And then if it's their birthdays, you know, all the ugly pictures that they take in my phone, they get posted.
It gets posted. And that's funny. That's hilarious.
We had dance parties during lunch, just so that, like, family means something.
Yeah.
And that means that if I can have fun with you, if I can look you in your face and we can laugh, then it's a lot easier for you to take criticism from me.
Sure.
And there were times where I had to get mad and yell, but there's such a respect factor that is a foundation that has already been laid that can happen. And they were able to come up to me and tell me when they were also disappointed in something that I had said, did, or something like that. And I think that that's the other half, is knowing that as the adult, you're not always right. You're not doing everything right, and you know how to apologize.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like a lot of people had felt like in previous director-actor relationships that we had, it was a lot of like, if our director said something, we knew that was it, and then like there was no like leniency. Like if he thought it was right and we didn't think it was right,
you could negotiate.
Yeah. But like with Miss Miller, it's like we may say something and she'll be like, oh, I don't really think that, but that gives me this, and then we'll do this, and we're like, oh, that gives me this, and then by the time we're done, like we have like something really good that's a mix of everything's everybody's ideas,
Right.
you know.
So you got to get going in a minute, but because you actually have a show to direct, but and I'm assuming you're staying and actually directing the show, right? Yeah. But I wanted to ask, so this year there was more pressure than usual because the people you had directed previously with were gone. Clean slate. You had a new tech director who does not have a one-act play background at all.
Not a little bit.
Didn't even know how to spell OAP. Just kidding. He's amazing. But did you change how you went about your process a little bit because there was a little more of that pressure? And they were, the expectations now for the program were still high, but now it's also individually Miss Miller.
So yes, it's funny that Avery's sitting here because the text messages.
He didn't see it though.
He didn't see it, but the text messages that he
sure.
got from me were he's like, "Oh, everything's gonna be okay," because the pressure was extremely high. Under no circumstances did I want like our teaching dynamics to change. Like we lost a teacher, gained a teacher, and then if you don't advance, then everybody's like, "Oh, it must have been that teacher." And that's ego and pride, and I'm human, so I have ego and pride.
But that's part of the process,
and that was definitely. But I did not want to change what we had done the last 2 years because I know that what was implemented the last 2 years worked. I know what I brought to that, and I know that worked. And I think that if I had given in to that ego and changed everything based on my ego, then I'm not doing a service to the kids.
Right.
So, no, the process stayed the same, although, very huge changes happened last minute. The process itself.
Like changing the play.
Yeah, like changing the play 2 weeks before our first clinic, 4 weeks before contest.
Yeah.
That we have a formula that works, and not works in the making it to state type way, but making a great show type of way. And so we stuck by that. We made sure we got our table work in. We made sure that this was a collaborative effort. We made sure to send people off with their send them with their understudies and make their understudies work them.
Yeah.
And those are things that we have always done. So I'm not gonna lie, at district, because Fort Bend's district is tough.
Competitive.
And whoever leaves district has a really good chance of being at region or state. And so going into district, I was a nervous wreck. I always have nightmares before UIL. Those came more frequently. And getting past district was when we were able as a cast to breathe.
Yeah.
Because that is, I'm not going to say the biggest hurdle, it's just the first one. You just want to know that you have a show at district. Like, do we even have something that makes sense?
Yeah.
And so for someone to say that we do, and that it's understood, and that it was, a decent show, although I didn't like it at district, to say that it was a decent show, allowed us to finally sit back, breathe, and then go back to what our product was, and then be able to do all the fun things that we like to do with our show. Because it's funny because Jay said to us at the clinic, he's like, "Oh yeah, show blah blah blah. I know it'll be completely different at district," and it was. And then he's like, "Yeah, I know it'll be completely different if I see it again at area." It kind of was.
You're talking about Jay Thomas of Minor Wisdom fame? Okay, yeah.
Yes. Honorary BTE with the hoodie.
Yeah, he made sure to tell me that he does not have a Dulles hoodie. He's told me that a couple times.
But yeah, so the pressure is extremely high, and it continuously is high, because as soon as we got back from state, the question was, so what are you thinking for next year? And I'm like, sleep.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I'm thinking.
Good play,
for next
by the
year.
way. Good play. Sleep.
Sleep, great
Sleep
play.
the play. That'd be a
And
great
so
play.
when we walk in, like when we hired Michael DeBose, in his interview, state was brought up.
That's summer school bell.
In his interview, state was brought up. Then when he was hired, and it was like, I think it was like Meet the Teacher or something, state was brought up.
Yeah.
You walk down the hallway and state is brought up, and we're looking at people like, can we get past district?
Yeah.
Can we get to district?
It's like putting a quarterback on the field that's never learned how to throw. Like saying, "Good luck, go win."
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And he's a big quarterback.
and DeBose is like, what is state? Like, is state next week?
I live in the state. I live in Texas.
That's right.
I'm in the state. Yeah.
And it was funny because I was talking to him after district, and he was like, I have never had anxiety the way that I had.
And you could tell. I mean, watching him.
Yeah.
You know.
He was nervous?
Oh
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And people put so much stock into it. And, you know, before we go out to awards every time, and Avery can attest to this, is that we have a meeting, a little powwow, and I say, remember what you felt like when the curtains closed. If you were pleased with the show that you put on when the curtains closed, then the awards don't matter. Yes, we're going to be excited if we advance.
Sure.
We're going to be sad if we don't. But when we walk away, did we do what we were supposed to do? At district, those curtains closed, and people were not happy.
Yeah.
Like, our cast was not happy.
Yeah.
And so that when the awards came and we advanced and then we got back to work the next week, they understood the work that we needed to put into, because now what they felt was what other people was like, oh, great show, y'all advanced. They were like, no, now we have a chance to make this what we wanted it to be, because I wasn't pleased, they weren't pleased, and I like the fact that they get to walk away even advancing going, that is not the show that we said we were going to put on.
Right.
And going back to the relationship thing that we were talking about, I think that the type of relationship that I have with my students and that they have with me allows for that type of thing to happen, where they get to be upset about a show. I get to be upset about a show. We get to talk about it and then figure out how to make it work. So